So this is day 3 of our winter break. I hope everyone's doing okay, and I hope everyone's caught up on their work. So I didn't want to go 3 days without teaching to you. So here is me going over the impact of the American Revolution for you. I think it's more straightforward than most of the other stuff we've been talking about, such as theories and theorists. So this one might be a little more familiar to you, but I just wanted to have a class where we can just talk about it and apply it. And I'll also go over your assignment for today, and it will be due January 24th. Also, the field trip where for the permission slips, we're extending it to Tuesday the 23rd. So please get those to me ASAP. So we're going to talk about the impact of the American Revolution. All right. So the first thing we need to know is the United States was part of Great Britain at first. And after this long war called the French and Indian Wars, the British started doing a lot of these taxes. You've probably heard of the Sugar and Tea and Stamp Acts, but what really got people mad was the Coercive Acts. This was a response to the Boston Tea Party, where the British basically said, okay, y'all boycotted way too much and you've destroyed too much property. So we're going to finally hit back with this. So the Coercive Acts basically made Boston its own little thing. Like there was blockades, military guards like in and out of Boston. So basically a lot of the colonies felt that if they would do this to a major port, then they're going to do this to us. And this is where everyone starts to say, Boston and Massachusetts aren't alone. So we're going to hold this Continental Congress. And there's two of them. The first one really doesn't achieve independence like you're led to believe. It is a meeting between all the colonies, and they start to really question what we should do. But the major thing is Congress issued a Declaration of Rights, which affirmed its loyalty to the king, but disputed Parliament's right to tax the colonies without representation. So you probably heard the term taxation without representation. Okay, so how back then, think about it. Britain's over here, there's a big ocean, and here is the United, like America, the colonies. It would probably take a month before you could get back and forth. So what Parliament said, these are already British citizens. So Parliament will decide what they do. We're going to have them represented through proxy. So the colonist says, no, we should have their own representation on these matters. Parliament says no. So this was the major dispute. So something happens and we start having fighting between the colonists and the British military, the famous battles of Lexington and Concord. And things start really escalating towards, we're going to probably go through independence. But in the time being, let's get an army together. So the Second Continental Congress establishes that George Washington would lead the Continental Congress Army. And the reason that George Washington is important is because Virginia is the most powerful state. So George Washington, of course, is from Virginia. also, they had this last ditch effort to give the king one last shot at trying to find a peaceful reconciliation. It's called the Olive Branch Petition. Well, basically, George says there are no British citizens that we're disputing with, only traitors. So basically, independence was inevitable at this point. So we start this process called the Declaration of Independence. Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Roger Sherman, and Robert Livingston were appointed to draft the Declaration of Independence. Like I said earlier, this is heavily influenced by John Locke, because you remember life, liberty, and property. Well, it changes life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's where Thomas Jefferson gets that from. The document is announced that we're going to be totally separated from Great Britain. And basically, everyone signs it. John Hancock, of course, has the biggest signature. So, there are 5 sections to the Declaration of Independence. You need to know all of them. You need to know the introduction. It states the document's purpose. Basically, what are we doing here? Preamble is basically, hey, this is why we're doing this. And these rights are self-evident is in this part. Then the body. So the body is the main text, and it lists all the things that have transpired and why we should. It's basically backing up why this thing's going to happen. The conclusion is basically summing up everything and what we're going to do. And of course, the signatures are the last part. Okay, so you can't just have a government without laws, even when you're at war. So they're starting to have this put together government, and they come up with this idea of the Articles of Confederation. So Confederation is a list, basically a group of people or entities with a common goal, but they don't want to be together forever, or they don't want to be intertwined. So basically, all these colonies aren't really thinking of a strong central government. They're thinking of, hey, let's just beat the British and we'll figure this out afterwards. So we start with the Articles of Confederation. Basically, know that the Articles of Confederation gave a lot of strength to the states, but really weakened any federal government that we would have. So here's the biggest one. Congress had no power to tax. Without taxing, you can't fund a central unit. So basically, you couldn't tax and couldn't enforce laws. So basically, what would happen in Massachusetts would be totally different what happened in Georgia. You can come up with different tax laws, and you can cheat people this way or that way, and it was just a crazy system that was never going to work. And it comes to a head at this thing called Shays Rebellion. Basically, what Shays Rebellion is if you know anything about Massachusetts, it is a harbor and fishing and merchant type place. Boston is a major port in the United States. Or really, back then, it was probably the biggest port. Well, you had a lot of merchant classes, and a lot of them kind of had this idea that they could do whatever they want and should be able to do what they want. But the problem is the more inland you got, the more backwoods it got. A lot of farmers and a lot of people that really had nothing to do with being merchants. They were lower class and they wanted to live off the land and live how they want. Well, they started getting this governor who wanted to back the merchants, and the merchants wanted to have these huge taxing policies, and it really didn't go good. Basically, the farmers kind of passively resisted it, and then the governors started taking stuff and putting people in jail. And so the farmers and the veterans of this war said, you know what, let's close the courts. So that's what they started doing, because closing the courts were looked at as a sign of resistance. And Shays Rebellion, like, is named after Daniel Shays, but he really isn't as important as you would think being named after this. He really wasn't the leader of this. It's just his name, unfortunately, becomes part of this, and it never really goes away. So everyone just remembers it as Shays Rebellion. What kept on happening, though, is the governor would send more and more troops after they put down this armed rebellion. Well, what happens when you can't pay an army? And they're basically the same people. They're kind of the same people who they're trying to fight. Basically, what they would find out is the Massachusetts Army would put down their guns and join the Shays Rebellion. So this mob kept on getting bigger and bigger until finally they got enough men to put it down. But the problem is Shays Rebellion showed you couldn't run a government with the Articles of Confederation. Anyways, you can watch this movie on your own. So what we're going to get to doing is, like, if you look at this document right here, Winter Day 3, it's under Thursday the 18th. You're going to see what you have to do. And what I want you to do is make a mind map. A mind map is something like this. I went to Canva to do it. And your central theme is the Continental Congress. So you put that in the center. And then, like, I just came up with 4 different topics. I put Shays Rebellion, Declaration of Independence, Articles of Confederation, and Subversive Acts. So I did my job of making 4 major topics. Now you have to make at least 3. So if I would say Declaration of Independence, I'd probably put something like written by Thomas Jefferson, inspired by Enlightenment thinkers, or something like that. I hope that makes sense. If not, just email me or talk to me on Friday. But this is due by the end of the day on Wednesday. I hope this cleared up a few things about this chapter. It's pretty straightforward, but if not, then get back with me next time you see me or email me. Thank you.